Shiny Pokemon are incredibly fun to hunt down and find. They're extremely rare and often completely change the way a Pokemon looks so that it stands out from the rest. But sadly, this isn't always the case. Whether a Pokemon's shiny form is indistinguishable from its regular form or just looks 10 times worse than before, it can either be very disappointing or just ruin them altogether. So this video will be looking at the 10 worst shiny Pokemon of all time and just what makes them so bad. We'll start with a Pokemon whose shiny form is almost identical to its regular form, Blissey. What's weird about the Blissey line is that both itself and Happiny barely change at all. Blissey goes a bit paler and Happiny turns a slightly different shade of pink/purple, whereas Chansey changes completely to a horrible green colour. The reason I've chosen Blissey for this list over Chansey though is because at least it noticeably changes. There is no way I'd be able to tell a shiny Blissey from a regular one, and that's just flat out awful. The cherry on top is that the paler pink of the shiny doesn't even look as good as the more vibrant pink. Blissey needed to be completely different colours, whether that's sticking with the green of Chansey or switching up completely, I'm not sure, but just not this. Anything but this. Speaking of shiny forms that are just pointless, both Munchlax and Snorlax definitely fall into that category as well. The only difference between the two forms is that the shiny is a little bit more of a darker and more vibrant blue. So at least I guess it actually looks a little bit better than the normal version. Still, there's just little to no change here. If I saw a wild shiny Munchlax walking around, there's no way I'd know it was shiny without encountering it. Thankfully, in games with overworld spawns, you're usually notified of a shiny when it spawns in, like in Let's Go and Legends Arceus, allowing you to know for sure that this is indeed the shiny. But in Scarlet and Violet, you have to walk up to it and encounter it to get the sparkles to pop up. I really wouldn't want to shiny hunt for a Blissey or Munchlax in Generation 9. Now onto our first inclusion that is at least noticeably different, and that's Ursaring. Unfortunately, despite it being a shiny version of the big fella, it's absolutely dreadful. I'm not really a fan of many green shinies, with Beedrill being another example, but there's something so in your face about Ursaring that makes it repulsive. Teddiursa is the same shade of green, but it's small and cute at least, so doesn't know any better. Ursaring on the other hand should have grown up a bit and had a long hard look at himself. I know it's extremely cliche to suggest black shinies, but surely it makes more sense in Ursaring's case, with a brown bear and a black bear, no? I think a black Ursaring would look a lot better and way more intimidating than this gummy bear looking joke of a shiny. As much as it pains me to include the poster Pokemon of the franchise, Pikachu's shiny is nothing short of abysmal. Again, it's so pathetically close to the original colorway that I have to squint to notice a difference when they're not side by side. The only vague difference is that the shiny is a bit more orange than yellow and its cheeks are more pink than red. This results in a blander looking Pikachu, which is just not what you want from a shiny. A shiny should be immediately recognizable and strikingly different. This is neither, which is disappointing as Pikachu could have had a great shiny if it was just a notably different color. Garchomp is an incredible Pokemon. It's the pseudo-legendary of Sinnoh and is a brilliant physical attacker, which makes you wonder why its shiny version is so pathetic. At very least, it's distinguishable from the regular version, but my word have they made it look so much worse. Instead of the vibrant blue colour it once was, it changes into a weird looking grey blue, which just looks really boring. Its red chest that used to stand out from the blue becomes a much less obvious orange that doesn't look good with the new blue it has. The whole thing is just a mess. I honestly think that Garchomp's colorway should be reversed so that the shiny version is just its regular version. The first legendary Pokemon to make our list is Regice, and, well, if you look at the two of them side by side, you'll know exactly why. Even when they're right next to each other, I struggle to tell the difference. If it wasn't for my basic comprehension of the fact that you read from left to right, so typically other things are formatted that way, I wouldn't even know which one was shiny and which one wasn't. The shade of blue is slightly darker, I think? The fact that I'm not even sure whilst literally looking at it has to make it a strong candidate for the worst shiny of all time, meaning it definitely deserves a spot on our list. At least in Pokemon Go they tried to make the shiny a little bit more obvious I guess, but in the mainline games it's inexcusably poor. Shiinotic isn't exactly my cup of tea. I don't really like its design at all, and unfortunately Foongus is the best mushroom Pokemon by a mile. And no, it has nothing to do with my name being Fergus and Foongus being incredibly close to that. However, what I will say about it is that its original colorway is perfect. It's clearly a mushroom covering the grass aspect, and then the pink and purple help to distinguish it as a fairy type. So why it then becomes yellow and brown of all colours in its shiny version, I genuinely have no idea. What an absolutely putrid mix of colours. I actually can't look at it for more than 5 seconds without having to take a shower, it's that bad. My suggestions to improve it are to simply change the colours to anything else. Yellow and brown is just a horrible combination and makes it such a bad shiny. And now we're on to a slightly more personal inclusion to the list. Some of you may look at Sudowoodo and think, hey, that's a pretty good shiny. Its body changes from brown to green and the leaves, well, I think they're leaves, on its hands change from green to red. It's a notable difference and looks okay to be honest. What lands it a spot on this list is the fact that I shiny hunted for one of these things in a shiny only run of Heart Gold for 28 hours on stream and couldn't find it. Now, whilst that may seem like a short amount of time for someone who shiny hunts a lot, for me it felt like a decade. I now don't like Sudowoodo or its stupid Christmas tree version.
You know what? You just made the list!
The second and final legendary we've included is Zapdos. Zapdos is a really cool Pokemon, but just has such a terrible shiny. It suffers from almost the exact same problem as Pikachu in that its colour goes from yellow to a slightly more orangey yellow, and it's not really that noticeable whatsoever. I feel for people shiny hunting Zapdos because if I didn't see that initial sparkle when I encountered it, I'm pretty sure I'd just reset. What's sad about this is that it could have been a load of other colours as well. I think a red Zapdos would look really good, or even a blue one, seeing as blue is often linked with electricity. It just seems a shame that such little effort went into designing it shiny. Oh well, at least the normal version looks great. Nidoking and Nidoqueen are both amazing Pokemon, and I love how Nidoking turns into Nidoqueen's shade of blue for its shiny. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about Nidoqueen. It would make complete sense for Nidoqueen to be purple, right? To match Nidoking changing to blue. So why Game Freak thought it was a good idea to have Nidoqueen's base colour as green, I have no idea. It's a horrible murky green as well, and then to top it off they've made the highlights purple, which somehow makes it look even worse. It could have been great if they just made the obvious choice, but oh my word did they do Nidoqueen so much injustice. And that's it, the 10 worst shiny Pokemon of all time. If you have any others that you think should have made the list, then let us know in the comments, and make sure to check out this other Pokemon video on screen now.